What's up everyone, ThePandaPhotographer here, and I just want to talk about HDR photos. I don't make many HDR photos, but when I do, I think outside the box on this one. And I try to put some type of creativity to my images and make them stand out a little bit different from other photographers and other HDR creators on social media or on this platform as YouTube. But keep in mind that take this video with a grain of salt, okay? You may not like HDR photos, but I know for sure that you are curious about HDR photos. So, with that said, everyone, I'm gonna wait a few moments. Let me make sure the live stream is running good, and make sure that everything's syncing correctly. Alright, so I'm using the H4n Pro as my microphone this time, not my headphones. So, yeah, so let's get this process going because I really don't have much time. So, it's been a busy Friday for me so far. Let's talk about HDR photos. Why would you want to create one? Well, if you know how to create one, you know how to, get everything right in camera, make sure there's minimal noise, because that's what you really want to focus on, ISO performance. And because HDR photos kind of brings more noise to the photo, but a texture of grain to make it more, I would call it cartoonish style. But then again, I just started messing around with some photos from New York City, and I decided to go back to this one because I like how symmetric everything looks. I like how the people walk in, and I do like the fact that I'm able to actually bring this image to life. So let me start over. Let's start this process over. This is what the image looked like before, so you guys have a better understanding where I'm coming from. So, as a travel photographer, I try to emphasize being open-minded and having that motivation to take a dull image like this and make it pop. And from how other people's opinions may vary, so take this with a grain of salt. This is how I do it. I try to do everything in post, in camera, so I could get it right. But I shot this at 1.8. I don't know what I was thinking at the time when I shot this at 1.8, but it's 1/6 of a second at 1.8, 18mm ISO 100. Now, if you look at the Instagram, you can see that now my exposure is peeking over in this area here. You can see, and the blacks and the colors. But if we zoom in 1:1, it's decent sharp at 1.8 handheld. It's really decent sharp holding this at 1.8. But kind of wanted to do something to this image, and I was trying to think of something because I'm posting a lot of micro lenses on Instagram, and I think it's time for me to switch over to cityscapes and night photography now, since I haven't been doing them lately, and I think it's time that I will do it. So let's feature a cityscape photo like New York City, World Trade Center, Oculus Center, and just give this image a pop. So first and foremost, this is what my settings are. Okay, my exposure is at +14, my contrast is down 37, and I explain why the contrast is down 37 because it has something to do with processing the HDRs and adding detailed extractor to the image. So keep that in mind. My highlights is down by 41, -41, and my shadows up by 49. I can bring that down if I wanted to, but I think 49 was just as good because there was not much noise in this image in the first place. Now, if you're looking at my tone curve, it's a slight tone curve on the top edge here. You can see where my lights and the darks and the shadows kind of bend, but my highlights are bending a little bit there. So, other than that, I fixed my saturation. I didn't mess with the hue or any of the color, which is called HSL. I didn't really want to mess with the colors because I'm going to be doing that in Nik collection. Now, how I actually try to make sure there's minimal noise in my images and how to get the sharpening to a key and make sure there's enough detail, the radius and amount. You can see where if I press the alternate key on my laptop, you can see where if I just highlight it, this is what my image will be. You can see where the focus on details and sharpening the image comes in play. This is why I definitely recommend doing this tool, using the detail, using the masking to actually, you don't want the entire image to be sharp and white out. You want to actually take the adjustment levels down, and I'm gonna put it at about 55 so you guys can have an understanding where I'm coming from with this one. There's some noise reduction at 6, but I'm going to just leave that alone entirely. Removing chorobic aberrations is key because the Sigma 1835 does have minimum to minor chorobic aberrations, but in this photo I just did anyway. Sigma 1835, as you see before you. And let's see here. And then what I did was I went into Nik Collection. I choose the Color Flex Pro 4, and what I'm gonna probably show you step by step what I did to this photo. I really don't have enough time, but I really wanted to start pushing out content on how I'm making my photos as of today. My style always changes when I'm editing photos, and someone just commented me on, actually was having a conversation with me on Instagram saying that they noticed a big change in my photos. What are you doing? And then the question and the secret is, I'm not doing anything. I'm going out and I'm just basically going out and shoot. I don't have a plan. When you have a plan, you kind of get lazy, you get the shot that you want, and you go back home. I literally spend minimum like 3 hours walking around just trying to find stuff. But anyway, so the first thing I did was in Color Flex Pro 4, I went to the architecture tab. And what I basically was doing was I can choose from strong warmth removal, which you get an image like this, but I really didn't want that. So I just fixed the warmth a little bit because I'm going to do a little bit of adjustment. And you can make adjustments and you can choose a control point. Now, how you can do that is if you see add a control point to set 100% occupancy. I can't even say the word now. What the hell? And I can just go in here and just pick that right there and then move the circle or the strength. So how you can pinpoint strength is if I choose the control point and check this little box here, you can choose where you want the color, the white neutralization to emphasize the whole picture. So, but I want this to emphasize the whole picture. So, I'm going to uncheck that a little bit there, and then I'm going to actually go into levels. Now, I am going to set a level, and I'm going to do a subtle change in the levels here. Normally, I would choose a point, but I'm going to leave it the way it is because I try to not spend much time editing these photos, try to get everything right in camera. But yeah, and now you notice that the image got darker. So I was trying to be creative with this one. I was trying to see where I can actually take this photo to, and I choose the extreme details, but I put it on normal, and then I bring it down just a little bit, just about there, so you guys get the point. And then what I also did was add a little bit of warmth to the color. So why is this not booting up? Okay, there we go. So now I have a choice in choosing what kind of vibrance and warmth I want to bring to this color, to this image. Now I have many options here. I can choose a cool. I can choose saturation 2. And we're just gonna go with something more like subtle, just like this, but increase the saturation just a bit. And then now we can just go back in here. No, yeah, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. What the hell? I was thinking about another image. And then that's how I process it, and then it comes out more like something like, oops, why is it going into the library when I didn't even click on library? That's strange. Yeah, so it comes out more something like this, guys. You can see it on my histogram. I'm still kind of peeking, but you can see 1:1. I didn't lose detail. Now you can see a little bit of grain in the image, a little bit, but it's actually absolutely well controlled. You can see how sharp at 1.8, it's pretty sharp. But what I really like about this image is that the shadows of each person is giving off this scent, or this I'm not scent, it's giving off this representation of where the people are walking. You can see like literally the shadows from before. Like, look at this image before. If I was to, come on computer. Alright, computer's kind of getting slow, don't know why. But you can see right here, like, you don't see much of that shadow. You can still see it, don't get me wrong. You see the shadows and the details of the marble surface on the floor. But when we go back into this photo, you can see that the details of the shadows comes out more of that marble reflection, which I do like. I do like the reflections that I'm giving off in this image. But I'm also keeping everything kind of a HDR look, but not too much, because put too much HDR features into the image, you may want to back off, because it may look just distorted, it may look too pixelated, too grainy. But I call this HDR animated because this is reminding me of a 2D 3D kind of look to my images, but HDR look. But if that makes sense to you guys, but yeah, it's not easy trying to explain these things about Lightroom, even though I just get kind of nervous sometimes explaining these things, because YouTube has an audience where people are so much judgmental. Oh, you made this mistake, you said this, but I'm only human, so therefore I have to just do the best I can to my best acknowledgement and best abilities. But the image looks way better. I just posted on Instagram, by the way, if you guys want to join me on Instagram. And I am not getting a clean signal from live streaming right now. Don't know why. Yeah, I'm not getting a clean signal whatsoever trying to live stream this whatsoever. But with that said, everyone, this is the ThePandaPhotographer. This is how I process some of my HDR. There's more to processing to my photos. Keep that in mind, because I'm really want to spend more time in Lightroom and Nik Collection. I spend a lot more time trying to clean up a lot of noise and spots, which I did. But this image, I always make sure that my front element and the UV filter that I have in front of my front element on my 18-35 Sigma art glass is clean before I take a shot. So I try to make sure, even before I go out, I try to make sure that the sensor is clean. And that's maybe problematic for you, because you might not have the money to just spend on sensor cleaning all the time. But I just wanted to show you guys what I do to my photos and how I process them. So if you guys do like it, please let me know in the comments below. What would you have done differently other than what I have done? Because take this with a grain of salt, people. This is just a video just trying to give you some ideas on how to take a boring image and make it pop and make the details come out. And just for some comparisons here, like if you go back to this image, look at how dull that looks. There's not a lot of detail, and to me the structures just look soft, especially here in the background and in the foreground too.